Okay, cool. So we are live. Welcome everyone to this coffee break with Kurt. Hi, Kurt.
Hello.
We have today Sergio in the room. Hi, Sergio. How are you?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Good, thank you. So Sergio is joining us today because we're going to talk about a very interesting project that Sergio and Kurt did together in Mexico. But before going into the project, Sergio, do you want to introduce yourself and your company, maybe?
Well, yeah, we are here, and I'm CEO of White Inc. It's a channel partner for Bentley System, and we've been working on reality modeling solutions for about 5 or 6 years now. So we've been working with mainly low to medium budget projects, and we've been using context capture as a solution for all this time. And well, we got involved into something very interesting, and I hope we can share that with you today.
Nice, thank you. So guys, tell us more about this project. How did this project start, and what was the background of going underwater and testing context capture in underwater?
Yeah, that was one of the things that this whole meeting is called out of the box, and that's really what it was. I've never done underwater work like this. I am a certified scuba diver, so I'm aware of the logistics when you're down there, all the things that you have to deal with. This was really a big issue of how they were going to capture everything. So I wasn't positive it was going to work. I crossed my fingers and I went down to Mexico, and I advised the divers of how to do that, and it all worked out perfect. But
and these divers, sorry, they didn't have any experience whatsoever in photogrammetry, so that was a challenge itself, right? How to capture the data from.
Well, the good thing was that they were experienced divers. They're also cave divers, and they are photographers, so they knew how to take the pictures. How I guided them was basically the same way I would guide somebody with a drone. And we used a back and forth sweeping pattern. It's not exactly easy when you're in a cave that's sloping downward like this, and they're dealing with buoyancy and their lifeline that they have to follow, but we'll show you some of those things as well.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's the thing was I was working in the area at that moment with a drone pilot that occurred to know these guys, the divers. They're biologists, and they work as documenting and trying to preserve the quality of water of these caves. I don't know if you all guys know, but in the Mayan Peninsula, in the Yucatán Peninsula, there's a cave system that goes pretty much all over the area and has more than 3,000 caves and underground water, underground rivers that it's supposed to be all connected, but it's not all connected as we know right now. And some of these caves have an opening to the exterior. That type of caves called cenote.
Okay.
So the ancient Mayans used these places to send offerings to the gods. They throw treasure, some animal bones, types of these offerings, and also the Spanish. When they came and destroyed some of the Mayan buildings, they throw the stones of that buildings into the cenotes as a dumpster. So in the case of this specific cave, the divers found that happened. The Spanish destroyed some kind of building and throw all that in the near area cenotes. So we found pieces of buildings, pieces of statues, and also some Mayan offerings. So it's a combination. Cool. It's like a like a treasure quest right there down there. And there's a lot of these caves, and the divers had the need to show that to people, like to make some kind of sketch of what's there. What's inside of any cave. Taking under consideration two things. First, to really reflect the importance of the things that were there. So they capture video, they capture photo, but they wanted to show the space, how it works. and also it has to remain a secret. They can't use GPS or other type of technology because they have to be aware of the thieves, the looters that could enter using that information to take these pieces, because you can't even move them. It's completely illegal. So the institute that studies all these things, the archaeologists, should they want to have access to the information, but they really can't, because not all the archaeologists would be divers, not all the divers would be archaeologists, and also you can't even move the pieces. So it was kind of a challenge, and also with a very low budget, because not even government has this amount of money to invest in technology right now. And some of that technology could be extremely expensive. So we wanted to try using, taking advantage that they were already divers and photographers, and they had some equipment, a good camera, and they required some special lighting, and some lamps to give a special type of illumination. And we tried to do that first approach. We said them, hey, can you orbit some of these places? The first method we try is that they went underwater. And they found things, and they told me, hey, there's a torso and there's a head. It's a statue that broke up, and we found two pieces. So we want to make a model out of them. So I told them, let's just orbit them and try to get a mesh out of this. So they, with that information, they made sort of an orbit. You can see in the image, it's not a very complete one, but well, you'll see in the videos the actual conditions they're working with.
It's definitely a very good plot for a movie, Sergio.
Yeah.
So, Kurs, what were the recommendations? I'm interested in, like, how did you guide these divers into the data acquisition? How did they have to acquire the data in the conditions of being underwater?
Yeah, so as Sergio mentioned, they did the torso and the head. What we're looking at here is the torso. This isn't a bad capture. It's a little different than I'd recommend. I'd have them closer together. But I can show you, basically, when I'm training somebody, as they're capturing, I'm trying to explain the overlap. And if you're not using flight planning software, it's a little hard to get your overlap correctly. In this case, they're swimming underwater and using a handheld camera, so they're trying to move around this. I then could take this and show them where they took their pictures, how it is, then go to their video, and they did a video around the torso, and you can see that we extract every second or so around this. It creates a better overlap, and all in all, a better model. Now, what we're seeing here is a torso. So you can see here are the hands, and it's actually holding a vase with a face on it. And if we turn off the texture, we could see that a little better. So we can see the fingers here, and this is the chin of the torso.
I'm fascinated. Like I need to remind myself this is underwater. Like how actually James was commenting just right now. How do you compensate for the image distortion caused by the water? Did you have to make adjustments for a focal length, for example, or brightness or light? You were mentioning an additional point of light.
Yeah. So I'm going to share from my other machine here.
Yeah, you have to take. It's a very weird environment. You're gonna show the video, right, Kurt? Because it looks like it's snowing at all time. There's a lot of dust floating around, and the lightning is catching that. So they use some sort of I don't know the term in English. You can help me, Alicia. Stroboscopio.
I wouldn't even know what that is.
I think I lost my audio.
Just like flashing periodically, and the rest of the environment is completely pitch black. So there's no at the beginning, at the inner part of the cave, there's some light, but where the parts are, there's no light. So they just use a very thin light for navigation to find out where they are. They follow the lifeline and all, and the guidance they as divers they have to follow, and then the object that they need to capture, they use this very strong light that will just send a very big flash. So that's the first rule we broke. We're not supposed to use flashlights.
You seem to still have lost audio.
Okay.
No, we can
hear you, Kurt. Hello?
Oh, he lost audio.
Yeah, he seems to be lost. Okay, so that's very interesting, Sergio. So, but even considering to have like additional light, I'm still fascinated by the fact that you can see like that, even that snow, that dust that you were saying, coming from the water. It doesn't seem to be there present in the 3D model.
Yes, it's moving. This dust is moving, and the algorithm removes it, or maybe paste it on the texture. Hello, Kurt. We can hear you.
Let me check with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me more about this dust effect.
These all the sediments, or they're floating, because they're moving. The software maybe uses them as part of the final texture and just paste it on the mesh, but does not use it as volume because the algorithm removes it because it's in movement. So even when you see that the water is not that clear because there's this dust floating around, and you'll assume that the refraction of water would change things, the precision, the geometry, and everything worked fine, just taking the space that has the case, the cage in the camera is in, to protect it from the water, and that should be pretty much enough to work. So the algorithm did its job. We didn't know if it would work. We thought we could work it somehow, but the geometry came out great.
Yeah.
That's the cenote. That's the out.
Sorry, I'm
That's
back.
the
My
entrance.
audio. I had to disconnect and reconnect.
Hey, welcome back.
You're back. Hi, Kurt.
And sorry, I realized you could hear me, and well, let's get on with this.
It was kind of funny. So that is amazing. So that's the entrance to the cenote.
Yeah.
Here's actually the sketch before we did our dive. We sat down, we had breakfast, and Sergio translated for me. And I told these divers, you know, I've worked with drone pilots before, and I take it easy and say, look, don't expect to get 100% results the first time. It is a learning process. It's a comfort level, and I throw a lot of things at people with techniques. So I would say that I threw 10 different things at them, and I told them expect to get about 70%, you know, on your first dive. Well, they went down, and I got to tell you, even going through a translator, they did exactly everything that I said perfectly.
Amazing.
It was truly amazing. And we sat down for breakfast, and we were drawing on a napkin and the sketch of how this is laid out. And this is how they would describe it to somebody, where the entrance is, where the torso is, and where the head is. So we took it a step further. And sorry, Sergio, I don't know if you covered part of this when I was offline there, but this is the exterior of the cenote. As we see down in here, this is the cave area way down in this area. So we came down the steps and went down into the cave. And then from that cave, this is where we set up, and this was the equipment. Sergio, I don't know if you got into talking about the equipment.
I was just talking about the case, the little case to protect the water, and that how this was enough to prevent from distortion caused by water. So one thing that we should take under consideration, the water is extremely still. They are professional divers that are trained to swim very gently, to do not disturb the sediment or create waves in the water, because they are trained for this type of scenario, to capture good quality video on these still waters, this type of underground rivers. So there is not as much distortion as you could find maybe on a sea if you're in another environment, or if there's some light casting these weird reflections on the ground. That is also a pain when you're trying to do photogrammetry for this type of environment. So we had none of that, just the sediment. So this was the equipment, and this was enough. Comes capture, this camera, and the two lights. The most important part was the illumination part. The divers were very worried about the lights because they went at the last moment, because some issues with importing them. But and they were very worried because that's the only way to really get this quality images in that environment. If you use another sort of light, then the dust would be a problem. All that sediment really would be in front of you all the time, and you wouldn't be able to get good images.
Yep. I have some video showing when they were sampling with the lights.
Oh yeah.
Something else. We wanted to do some scaling. So what brought me into this picture was the divers went down and they got the torso and the head separately. And then, as you saw, Sergio scaled. I had one sketch up here where he had to scale the measurements of the two objects. The hard part is each one of those, we'd have to set up a scale and try to scale it. So when I got involved, I looked at it just like I do with drone photography, mapping out a whole area, covering all the area, and then bringing it back to your desktop so you could work with it. And that's the same thing where these archaeologists are trying to gather information, and they'd have to be a diver to get down in these situations, and it's very unsafe. Cave diving is very dangerous. They have lifelines that they have to keep track of, and it was pure darkness down there, complete black. So that's also very hard. So for the scaling aspect of it, we used PVC pipe here, and we made a 1 meter square grid. We also had to drill holes in it so that it didn't float to the surface. We had to make sure that it's filled with water. We also marked out every 10 centimeters on this. Here's some videos where they were practicing at the beginning, going in just in the shallow area before they entered the cave. But here you can see how the lights illuminate.
That is very cool.
Also, how they have to swim extremely slowly, and it's actually an excruciating effort. They came out exhausted. It's very complicated to do this type of work. You dive.
Then we had to carry all their equipment 30 meters up the steps, you know. So that created a challenge too, all that heavy equipment and climbing up rock walls and stuff.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I volunteer myself for next project, guys.
They need helpers. Their team was about, I think there were 5 people, because especially when they come out, they can't manipulate their own tanks or equipment. Someone has to carry them because they came out extremely tired, and they're right now inside. That's without the lightning, just
without the lightning,
the fade lamp that they have on the hand. That's what you can see. Otherwise, it's pitch black. So
it's incredible. It's still like it looks really, really dark.
Yes, it is.
Also, to try to catch the shape of the cave, I think it would be impossible to me. So they came out with a sketch out of this expedition, and they had a very they know the shape of the chamber they were exploring, but it's hard to communicate to others without this reality modeling technique. That's a vase somewhere in the cave. It was not modeled because they didn't orbit it correctly, and also it's not completely. It's buried. But you can see it's at the beginning of the cave. So also we can see there that if you capture these the wrong way without the lightning, you cast a very hard shadow and
I was going to mention that, that also the shadows play a key role in this fantastic adventure.
And the key is also we have 2 divers down there. So one diver is casting a shadow in the way of the other. So they had to be conscious of each other, of how they were moving around here.
How long did it take? How long were they underwater doing the data acquisition?
I believe it was like 40 minutes what they was there. They can't exceed an hour, and they had to rest for about 2 hours between dives. So and to help the sediment get to the bottom again, because they removed some of it, and also because they have to rest. So they went. It was 2 dives, right, Kurt? What they did?
Yes. Yeah, they did 2 dives.
Okay.
And that's, you know, it's a lot on them, as Sergio said. They can't just if they miss an area, they can't just throw the tanks back on and go back down there and look at it.
Yeah. And how many for those 40, 50 minutes, how many pictures did they manage to take?
Almost 1,400.
Okay, wow. Okay. James actually has sent a comment just now saying, like, usually when I do reality capture, I'm not too concerned that I might die.
Yeah.
I mean, that's hilarious.
So we're like a drone that is aware of itself, and it has to remember to fly and not crash, and also take the pictures. They have to be aware of so many things.
Yeah.
As you were saying, Kurt, all the things that you have to control when you're diving, and also this is tilted, so
Yeah.
they had to control the depth as they are going down and down.
So they have to control their buoyancy, and I'm an open water diver. I'm not experienced enough for cave diving. I've been through shallow caves, and you have issues with your tanks getting caught on things. You're in tight spaces. They have to use a lifeline that you can actually see in part of this model. But you see here, as they're moving down, they have to adjust their elevation through this.
Other very important thing is, as we can see on the videos, they see nothing but the thing that they had in front of them. So describing a grid as a drone would do without knowing where you are, because you don't have GPS, you don't have really a peripheral view because there's no lightning. I think it's a very complicated thing to achieve, and yet they made a very closed zigzag that gives us pretty much a grid that we were able to pull a mesh out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can see there.
So, Kurt, what you're showing in the screen in your screen now is the actual
yes.
the mesh
So
of the cave. Okay.
here you can see where they laid out the their grid. I think this one I have at scale. I have a lot of different models of this. Yeah, so we see it's 1 meter when I go from corner to corner.
Mm-hmm.
And also, yeah, let's look at some things that we see in here. You can explain some of this, Sergio.
Yeah, this is a column, or we think it's part of a column. These are all stones that came from the building the Spanish destroyed. These cenotes should have a flat terrain, just the thin sand and some of the stone. But this has a lot of different stones that came from outside. They're all parts of buildings. There you can see a block that has a carving on it on one of the walls of the
That's very cool.
block. So that's part of the building too. So the idea Kurt had is like, hey, don't do a mesh of anything you find there. Let's do a mesh of the entire thing, and then just hunt for these pieces in the. Well, I don't even know how to swim, and I can see these objects that are in a cave underwater. So now everything is on scale, everything is there, and also the divers maybe didn't find anything, and now everything I say, and now you can search for things. We found some other blocks that they weren't aware of, and also we discovered some things with the torso and the head, and we can talk about it. So here they moved the square so that we can. It was too large, the model, so they had to move the scale so that it would be scaled properly along the whole mesh. And
yeah, and I had to break up in this corner. We didn't have enough coverage here, but everything is still to scale.
You can even see the change of illumination. It's a bit bluish out there. It's the natural light that it's entering. That's the entrance of the cave. So the bottom is better in light, in illumination, because it's pitch black, so it's all artificial. And in this part there is some natural light that you can see.
Yeah. I see. So how, Sergio, is this data, like, I could imagine that from an archaeological and geological actually point of view, this data is of extremely, extremely valuable. Are you guys involved in any projects for, mapping these caves, or what is?
That's the actual idea. We're trying to build up a solution to do these quick sketches of very good quality to show the importance of all of these caves. There are more than 3,000, so there's a lot of people entering on them. Some of them just like touristing. Some of them really had an interest on archaeological point of view. And in this case, the divers want to connect the dots like, hey, we found this, maybe it's of importance for you, this is the model. So it's a quick way to scout all these places. So we're trying to build a project so that the National Institute or another a university or anybody who would be interested could use this method, and also the divers to build a team of these professional photographers that do this.
And also, like, if you could actually bring it one step farther and create like an augmented reality, you could actually train divers to kind of like get familiar with the environment they're going to find in the caves. Even for tourism, you could find this on the dive into the cenotes in Mexico, just as a teaser for increased tourism. So I see a lot of potential for this.
Yeah, actually, the divers mentioned that they are a special team that would enter into caves that have no lifeline and install it. Some of the divers do that, and the more experienced. So if you can make a model of how it looks and the general shape of the caves, a diver that is not that experienced can plan its travel and its exploration, because it's a very dangerous thing to do if you don't have a lifeline.
So I have two questions here that I wanna ask you guys. So James is asking, how did you handle coordination between photo sets, Kurt? Was it hard to match them up without help of GPS coordinates?
No, I can't lie. My software did all the work for me. I would love to say how incredible I was, but the truth is I throw all our photos in, it organizes it in photo groups. This actually video that I'm showing here was done with a rover, underwater rover. But let's get rid of that.
Just one thing I could mention. We're running out of time.
Yep.
The head and the torso, once the mesh was scaled properly, thanks to Kurt, we found out that they do not belong to the same statue. There are two different statues. One lost his torso, the other lost his head, and we found one piece each. So the divers couldn't tell that because they were right there fighting to survive and take the photos and everything.
Oh, I think we lost Sergio. Kurt, that project that you were showing, that's a different project, is it?
Yes, that was underwater, done with a rover. You would prefer to do it that way. That's actually a friend of mine, Javier, gave me that video footage. It was done with an underwater drone, so a rover. And the purpose, they just watch that video for, they just watch it for inspection purposes. They go through that. But it's something that I've been looking at where, we could still use that video to create models like this. So this is a bridge abutment or underneath the pier area. So we could see we have a crack in here, and we could actually start to measure things and and look at things. Of course, you'd have to scale it.
Yeah. Of course, I understand. Actually, we got a question from Mateo was asking, why didn't you use a rover to perform image capturing? But I think we covered that by the environment of the cave was probably not possible to have a rover in the cave.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you could. That costs money. So we did this whole thing. I don't know if Sergio mentioned, but I think it was about $60. We had to pay for the divers' air, and that was it. Gave them some food, but the truth, well, we were all hungry, but no, I mean, the truth was it was cost effective the way that we did it, and it was for concept. The main thing that got me involved in it, like I said, was that two different structures, they drew a sketch of where they're located, and that's where I'm like, well, look, we could lay out the whole playing field there and then start annotating and marking up these places where they are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh,
yes, we can hear you back, Sergio.
I
Sorry, we lost you
recall if you listened to the first part, but the finding that we obtained by doing this mesh all scaled up is that the head and the torso were not the same statue.
They come from different statues, yeah.
Yes. So that kind of analysis that you can do without having to go in there and having this software at your disposition, it's way better than using the regular archaeological methods that are used here. And yes, of course, a rover would be extremely useful. But if you are trying to pull this through a project this big with a budget that could not be that big, knowing that you can even use this type of method with the professional divers and another technique that would be cheaper could be very beneficial for the project, because we're talking about 3,000 times this, so we have to keep it low. But some of the process could be done by rover.
Yeah, I actually have someone asking, can we use deep penetration LiDAR and merge it with high resolution underwater pictures to improve the accuracy of measurements and have better geo coordinates?
Yes. Yeah, you definitely can. I've done things with bathymetry. Basically, it's just LiDAR underwater, LiDAR or sonar. It works better. Don't quote me on these things. It's not my world that I deal in, but I've taken that data before and merged it together.
That's really cool. Yeah, very interesting question, actually. So any other comments or thoughts about the project before we wrap it up for today, guys?
Just that it was extremely fun and interesting to do this. We made a combination of curiosity, goodwill, and low budget, and we came out with a very good mesh. We were searching for things yesterday on the mesh card and we found new things. So it's very nice to have this kind of treasure hunt with a mesh in your house. So I think it's a project that could be scaled to do more places and to be kind of a workflow for the authorities or for universities or anyone involved or interested in documenting this type of things. Also, it would work with other remains like ships and other things that might be found underwater that you can't extract, but you want to document to show to others. So it would be it's a great tool.
Yeah. Kurt?
Yes. Sorry, I'm just pulling up another file here.
Okay, more stuff.
Well, no, it's still the same, but I know we went through yesterday and added some notes to different things. Sergio found part of a plate that was up here, and I forget which file I noted it in, but
I think one of the takeaways that I've learned from these sessions with you, Kurt, is that the data acquisition, the planning of the data acquisition is key for the success of any photogrammetry projects. I think all the planning and having your experience and your expertise with such also an experienced team of divers and your support, Sergio, I think that was a very good combination. But the planning of that data acquisition, the light conditions, the different aspects that they had to take into consideration, that I think is crucial for the success of the processing.
Yeah, it was lots of fun too. I can tell you that.
It looks like it was a lot of fun. Again, I am volunteering myself for the next mission.
That somebody said, "What did you do over the weekend?" And I was like, "Oh, let me tell you. I went down to the Yucatan into the jungle, and we went in the cenotes. I got to swim in there too, so I didn't go down in the cave, but it was a pleasurable experience."
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah. When the pandemic is over and hopefully we can travel soon, I will be there in a day. I can be there in a day.
Yeah, of course.
So, Kurt, I have a question from James, and I think that will be the last question. Would you say that lighting is the main thing? So, for the data acquisition, for you, what would be the main thing for this project?
Yeah, lighting. I can tell you, even with this, I usually break all the rules. Lighting normally like this, you want constant lighting that's not moving around with you. It's the same reason we don't use flash lighting. but it works, and these divers did a fantastic job staying out of each other's way, staying out of their shadows, and doing all those kind of things. But yeah, lighting was the key thing. That if you saw they had some previous lights that I believe broke, right, Sergio?
Yes.
And the quality wasn't the same. These lights really hit it home. It worked great.
Yeah, if you don't use the correct lamp or you don't use the correct method, yeah, the photos would be way different, and it would be possible to do a good job with the mesh.
Is there any difference in the time, in the processing time from underwater imagery and compared to drone or aerial imagery? Kurt, did you experience any?
Yeah, so like with anything, whether it's drones or doing this underwater, these divers, they even use some of my techniques because they did 2 dives. They went down, came up, rested for a couple hours, and then went back down, did another dive. So when I went through their photos, I see this bright orange photo in there, and it's some advice that I gave them. If you're going to change, do a dive and then come back and do another one, or go to another area, take a picture of your vest or something that's bright orange, so that when we're sorting through photos, we could see that. So they did that. That helped extremely well. We did some post-processing with the imagery to lighten it up a little. Again, that's something we don't recommend you do, but we did it in this case, and it did improve it for us.
Okay, cool. Any other comments before we go?
No, I know we went over again, and I'm sorry I had some audio problems.
No, that's I think it's been really interesting. So not at all.
Yeah, so Sergio and I have been talking, and there's more things that we want to share with you. It's just everything that I'm focused on right now is out of the box. So it's not what I'm doing for my everyday job. I'm not underwater. Next meeting that we have, next coffee talk, I'm going to show you how I use my phone to calculate insulation in my house. And, it's just thinking outside the box in ways that we could do these things.
That's very cool. And with that, then we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Is it, Kurt?
That sounds great.
And thank you so much, Sergio, for joining, and all of you for joining today. And talk to you very soon.
All right. Thank you, Alicia.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.